Today we'll be speaking about your book, The Power of Productivity, Wealth, Poverty, and the Threat to Global Stability. I'll start with a question first pertaining to your chapter on United States, how consumer is king. You comment that creating value and wealth means producing products that society wants, not products for the sake of building them and that consumers do not want. The classic example of what not to do is build a bridge to nowhere. Can you comment on the relationship between politics and economics, particularly examples being government and politics working together to create what consumers want, for example, the internet? And then if you could also talk about governments and politics working at cross purposes, unintentionally to create what might be called national champions, as was the case in Japan and may be the case right now regarding China's industrial policy.
Sure. Well, the quote you had in there of the bridge to nowhere, of course, does come from modern-day Japan and their attempt to stimulate their economy by making big infrastructure investments on the part of the government, which by and large has succeeded only in running up government debt. And Japan provides a myriad of wonderful examples of the issues that you raise in this question. I mean, there is one of the best examples of active government intervention that yielded big benefits for the consumer from Japan. And that was the role MITI played in the machine tool industry in Japan. Prior to MITI's intervention in Japan, the machine tool industry around the world had been basically a garage shop operation with individuals custom building machine tools for particular applications in particular industries. MITI realized that by standardizing the tolerances of machine tools, that Japan would then be able to mass produce machine tools in an assembly line fashion, and then they could actually automate the assembly line itself through their electronics technology. So MITI's standardization of this industry, which was not standardizing by itself. Some industries are self-standardizing, like the mainframe computer industry, but the machine tool industry was not. And in that case, it's an appropriate role for government to intervene, to standardize, which MITI did. And of course, the result is that the Japanese machine tool industry basically drove the US and the German machine tool industries into niche markets. And they took basically all the main part of the machine tool market worldwide. Japan also has a lot of examples of where government intervention went wrong. And in fact, that's the big story of not only Japan, but around the world. Although there can be exceptions, like the machine tool industry, the great majority of cases where government has intervened to try to pick winners or favor strategic sectors have ended in disaster for the consumer. MITI tried to get one of the 6 big Japanese car companies not to begin making cars because they thought there were enough car companies in Japan.
Is that Honda?
No, it's actually Suzuki.
Okay.
And these entrepreneurs in Japan said, no, we can build cars and we can survive in this market and we can do well. So they entered the market and they created even more competition, price competition, quality competition in Japan, and then in some other markets around the world. So in that case, the entrepreneur was right and the government was clearly wrong. The bigger examples, though, in Japan are in the service industries, where by and large authorities from the national level all the way down to the local level, under the influence of the incumbents, competitors already in the market, and the retailing industry is the best example of that, through zoning laws and other environmental laws, have made it very difficult for modern retailers with much higher productivity and lower prices and in many cases better quality goods, made it very difficult for these people to enter the market. And the most recent example of this is Carrefour, which in my book I say one day Walmart may be the leading international retailer, but at the time of the writing of the book, it was, my view, was Carrefour, the French, big French retailer. Carrefour tried to enter Japan. They built a few stores, maybe about a half a dozen, but within the last 2 years, Carrefour has made the decision to withdraw from Japan, simply because it cannot get the land for the kinds of stores it wants to have. It can't get the locations it wants because of zoning laws. And so the losers in this actually are not so much the shareholders of Carrefour. The losers are the customers, the urban housewives in Tokyo and the other cities of Japan.
Very interesting.